What's going on, nation? Today we're going to talk about the 5 dumbest mistakes sabotaging your leg growth. And if you missed the last video I did where I talked about the 8 dumbest mistakes sabotaging your chest growth, I'll post a link to that down in the info section below. And I'll also include a link to a video I did where I compared the front squat to the back squat. And before we get started, if you haven't turned on notifications yet to make sure you get notified as soon as I upload a new video, make sure you do that right now. Now let's take a look at these 5 mistakes. Mistake number 1 is that you're doing no stretching or mobility work before you start squatting. And you should also be doing this throughout the week as well to improve your overall flexibility. What we want to do with you guys is start from the top and work our way down. So we're going to start with the shoulders. If you have really tight shoulders, it's going to severely impact your form when doing a squat. And I'll explain to you why. Put my hands on this barbell right here and get into my squat position. So the barbell should be resting across your traps. Now, if you have really tight shoulders, chances are you're already starting to feel a little pain just from holding the barbell in this position. And we don't even have any weight on the bar yet, and we haven't started descending. Now, what happens when you have tight shoulders, and you'll see this a lot in the gym, and you might be doing this right now and you don't even realize it yet, is that as you descend, instead of descending down with your chest up and then coming back to the top of the movement, what's happening is because your shoulders are so tight, as you squat, you're actually pushing the barbell into your neck. And then you start lifting your head up like this, and now all that weight is resting on your neck, and that's also forcing you to lean forward. And now not only is your squat form jacked up, but you're also pushing more through your toes to perform the movement, which is obviously going to be much weaker than pushing through your heels, let alone cause some knee pain as well. So if you have really tight shoulders and you're forcing the barbell into your neck, you run the risk of compressing discs in your neck and pinching nerves and causing a wide variety of problems. So what I want you guys to do is take a look at this video that I'm going to link to right here and practice these dynamic warm-ups before you start squatting and also throughout the week. And I'll tell you, one of my favorite ones to do is shoulder breakers. And you guys want to make sure you're doing dynamic warm-ups, not static stretching. To perform a shoulder breaker, all you need is a resistance band. You can keep this in your gym bag, you can do this at home or at the gym, doesn't matter. I would do it as soon as you wake up. And what you're going to do is create resistance by pulling on the band, go up and over like this, touch your butt, up and over, touch your thighs. And just do like 2 sets of 10 to 12 reps, up and over, and you're going to loosen your shoulders up. And if you do this for a while, they'll start getting really loose, and you shouldn't feel any shoulder pain. Now moving down to the hips. If you have tight hips, obviously it's going to severely impact your form because you're not going to be able to fully descend properly. And a quick tip for you guys with that is, you can do air squats to warm up like this, but chances are if you have really tight hips, when you're doing your air squats, you're probably still not having the best form when you do them. So what I want you to do to work on some hip mobility is do air squats, but do it next to a pole. That way you can actually control yourself as you go down and control yourself as you go up. Because if you're standing this close to the pole and keeping your chest up, it's forcing you to stay in that perfect squat position as you do the movement. And as you practice these things, you'll get better and better with your flexibility and mobility, and it's going to make your squatting much easier. The second mistake is that you're stopping at 90 degrees. If you guys are trying to build muscle, you want to make sure you're going as low as possible in every single repetition when squatting. This is because the lower you go, the more you're going to recruit your glutes and hamstrings into the exercise. And if your goal is bodybuilding, then your goal is to build as much muscle as possible. So you want to get as much muscle fiber activation as possible on your repetitions. Now, there is a difference between powerlifting and bodybuilding. Powerlifters stop just below 90 degrees. All they have to do when they compete is get below 90 so the hip bone passes their knees and then go back up. And that's fine because they're training for powerlifting. If your goal is bodybuilding and you're trying to build or increase the overall growth of all the muscles in your lower body, so your glutes, quads, and hamstrings, then you need to make sure that you're going ass to grass and then coming all the way back up on every single repetition. Now, we'll also say that if you're going ass to grass, that also places you in a bit of a better position to get your hips underneath the barbell to push back up through your heels. There is a benefit to going that low. And again, guys, if you're having a hard time with hip mobility, just make sure you're doing those stretches that I mentioned before. Mistake number 3 is that you're pushing through your toes to complete the movement. You guys should be pushing more through the middle of your foot during each repetition in order to complete your reps. And even though you might have good shoulder mobility and hip mobility to squat properly, there could be a few other things that are holding you back, and we'll talk about those right now. The first thing is you're not braking at your hips and knees fluidly as you perform the movement. You should be bending at your hips and knees at the same time as you descend and then come back to the top. So hips go back as your knees break, all the way down, all the way up. Now, if you're braking at your knees first, and what I mean by that is it's like you're basically kind of squatting forward and then sitting. You can see my heels are coming off the ground. Same thing if you brake at the hips first. So you have a slight bend in your knees, and then you brake at the hips. And now what's happening is as you brake at the hips and you're leaning forward, all that weight in your shoulders is going to push you forward like this. And then you're going to come down and push through your toes. So make sure that you're braking fluidly at your knees and hips. Practice with no weight first. The second thing that might be happening is you're having valgus knee collapse throughout the movement. That's when your knees collapse in, either on the way down or on the way up. And if this is happening to you and you're noticing it in the mirror, you have to stop and fix this problem right away because it's #1 cause for an ACL tear. An easy way to fix this might be just take your form. You might have a bit of a narrow stance. Either get a bit wider with your stance or turn your toes out slightly just like this. That way when you squat, your knees will follow your toes on the way down and on the way up, and then just mentally focus on pushing your knees out as you go down and keep pushing them out as you go back up. Mistake number 4 is that you guys are breathing during the rep. As soon as you start to breathe during the rep, you lose all core stability, and it's going to cause you to collapse and get a lot of flexion in your spine. And what I mean by that is you're going to take your breath, and as you come down, if you breathe out, you're losing all that internal pressure, and it's causing you to lean forward. And if you have weight on your back, it's going to cause you to basically collapse like this. You need to keep a tight core and keep that pressure in there in order to be able to squat with heavy weight and maintain your proper form. So the way you do this is you take in a deep breath at the top, keep your core nice and tight, flex your abs, and then hold that breath as you go down. Keep your chest up as you go up, and then don't breathe out until you get to the top of the movement. Now this also still applies if you're using a weightlifting belt. And I'll link you guys to a video that shows you an in-depth review on how to use one of these. But really quick, when you put your belt on, #1, you should be putting your belt on and tightening it before your set starts. If you do your entire workout and never adjust your belt, then your belt is way too loose and it's doing nothing for you. That's why I use the Inza belt, because it has this lever right here. Before my set begins, I get it nice and tight, take in a breath, and then I flex my core and push into the belt at the same time, and this keeps my core nice and strong when I'm lifting heavier weights. So if you're not breathing right, make sure you start breathing correctly now. The 5th and final mistake is that you're not resting enough between your sets. If you're only taking like a 45-second to 60-second rest period in between your sets and you're trying to lift heavy, at the end of the day, guys, your body has just not recovered enough from the previous set to not only perform better and lift more, but the quality of your reps are probably going to be less because you're not well rested. If you want to make sure you're getting quality reps and you're able to work with progressive overload and add weight each set, you need to rest at least 2 to 3 minutes in between your sets. Now, if you're going for a 1 rep max, you can rest a little longer, like 3 to 5 minutes. But if you start wandering around the gym in between sets and you start talking to people and you're resting like 15 minutes, 20 minutes between your sets, what's going to happen is your body's going to start to get tight, and when you get back to squatting, you run a higher risk of injuring yourself. So don't rest too long, but don't rest too short either. All right, guys, so those are my 5 dumbest mistakes people make when squatting. If you have any suggestions for a future video you'd like to see some mistakes on, be sure to leave a comment down in the comment section below. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. And as always, more good stuff coming soon. See you guys.
Sabotaging.